Nicole and Briana are lined up on the grid. It's lights out, and away we go. This week's grid walk.
Well, we can't talk about the Monaco GP without actually talking about on-track performance. But we can't talk about on-track performance without talking about flying cars.
I had to say, does that count as on-track performance if we're talking about the cars being lifted off of the track?
Well, the roundabout way I got there was because the part of the car, which is the floor that we got to see for these cars, is responsible for 50 to 60% of on-track performance. But I really just wanted to talk about cars flying for the memeability of it and the performance impact of it.
Yes, of course. But the panic and sudden oh my God, everyone look, we saw Red Bull's floor. We saw Red Bull's floor. And I love they're acting all chill and we're not worried. But I know immediately everyone was taking notes. I was like, someone tell me what all of this means. But do we really feel now that there's been some kind of secret sauce unlocked and now we know that all 9 teams don't suddenly have all of the secrets, but do we feel like they were probably paying extra close attention to when the car was flying in the air?
Were they paying attention? Yes. Can they replicate it? We'll see. I think from a outside fan perspective, we saw Ferrari's floor and we were like, a floor. Because we hadn't seen one since Monaco GP last year or when Joe's car just went flying. And then we saw the Mercedes floor and I was like, oh, cool. Another floor. I can compare floors. And then they lift that Red Bull up and I felt like I was looking at an alien. It was so much more intricate and detailed, and I was at a loss for words. I don't even think you got more of a voice note from me other than we saw the floor, because that's just all I was feeling in the moment.
Very much Red Bull's floor. Red Bull's floor has been revealed. We see the floor.
So, but that was in moment. I do have a little bit of an answer to the actual question you asked, which is, how's this going to affect other teams? Yeah. Is there some secret sauce revealed? So the reality is, yes, that Red Bull floor, you can visually, not knowing anything about tech, you could look at their floor and compare it to the Ferrari and Mercedes and just understand why they're a second ahead of everyone. You're like, oh, they just understand this better than everyone else. And I think that's the key secret sauce, is that they just understand it better than everyone else. So damn, they know what they're doing. It's not that we didn't know that already, but now we can see it fully. Now the hope is that all the teams are going to be able to look at those photos and glean something from it to help them close the gap in performance. The interesting thing about all the aerodynamic stuff to me is that it's not singular. Everyone loves to focus in on side pods, and we know that they don't actually make a huge difference. They're just the thing we can visually see week to week and understand. But apparently, according to people much smarter than me, the real magic about the Red Bull is not just the floor, it's how the floor interacts with the suspension. And it's going to all come down to what it always comes down to, which is what engineers at all these other teams are going to be able to look at those photos and apply those things to the car concepts. Because unfortunately, we are living in a cost cap world, which was meant to bring the field closer together. And I do think it's brought the field closer together, but it hasn't made the championship more competitive, because in a prior world, Mercedes would have looked at that floor. Mercedes would have brought a real B-spec this week. They brought a modified, we jerry-rigged our current chassis to work for this. We're not even going to see the real performance of the new Mercedes B-spec concept until the beginning of 2024. So because of the cost cap, people can't bring sweeping changes to their car. So even if all other 9 teams have engineers who are able to look at those images of the Red Bull floor, the absolute earliest we would see that bring anyone to a competitive level with Red Bull, maybe the beginning of next season, because that would be next year's cost cap. So that's the unfortunate part of all of this.
I'm just imagining a world of no cost cap where we see that floor and Toto's just like, that one, get me that, do that, that is that. Go now, have it ready by next week, and then it just like occur, which is like just a magical fever dream world that. And
Ferrari, Aston, and Mercedes would all debut brand new cars by Silverstone. Like, great, cool, and then it's competitive. So, like, yes, I think a cost cap is healthier for the sport. But as a fan of a front-running team, remove it or break it. Toto, I'm looking at you. Break the cost cap. Okay. Apparently, they don't punish you, so break that cost cap.
You can handle it. You can even pay for the fees yourself. You're so fine.
Yeah, and I hate to be like doom and gloom about it. So that's like really the positive is I'm glad that Checo crashed, because this, even though it's not going to bring someone closer to Red Bull in the immediacy, seeing it is always good. Like, it's great that all the teams now seeing it and that they can send their engineers off to go look at it and figure it out. And copying other teams means you'll always be one step behind them. But I think it's better that it's out in the open and we've all seen the magic now. So it's just, what can people do with the magic now? Will be interesting.
Very interesting. I'm excited to see. And then whatever then Red Bull will do next, that then we'll be like, what are they doing? But yeah, let's keep hoping for more flying cars in the way where no one's hurt. But yeah, give us more insight to cars that we don't get to see literally ever.
Helicopters and flying cars. Perfect equation for a great Monaco GP.
Who knew that's what F1 needed? Thank you so much for listening to this segment from episode 19 of Gridwalk. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more F1 videos while you're here. And you made it this far in this video. Why not watch the rest of the podcast? You can watch the full thing. Click right here. Ready? Click, 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 click.